No way this just happened. The Dallas Cowboys are a train wreck. They lost again. I was expecting them to lose against the Atlanta Falcons, but what I did not expect is for them to lose their two best offensive players in injury fashion. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and before we talk about the Cowboys news, I hope all your fantasy teams are doing well on this Sunday. Mine is not. And to add insult to injury, the Dallas Cowboys lost yet again in convincing fashion to the Atlanta Falcons. They made it a game there close, but we all knew that that game was all wrapped up and whatnot. But before we get into the video, I want to let you know that a large percentage of you watching these are not subscribed to the channel. So go ahead, hit that sub button. We're close to my goal of 2,500 subscribers, and the support has been unbelievable despite the lackluster performance from the Dallas Cowboys. But let's get straight into it right here. Dak Prescott has been ruled out for the remainder of the game with a hamstring injury. So that was the first domino to fall. The second one, CeeDee Lamb is questionable with a shoulder injury. Now, CeeDee did ultimately return and he caught the 2-point conversion, but every single time that he was making a play or someone even touched him near his shoulder, you could tell that he was feeling it. And I'm no doctor. I'm not going to go out there and prescribe his injury here, but a doctor, Sport MD Analysis on X, you could go check him out. CeeDee Lamb, video suggests AC sprain versus clavicle fracture, so I guess that is good news. Standing on sideline versus going to locker room suggests sprain more likely. Suspect he's attempting to return, but looks like he's in a lot of pain. And something that really stood out to me was the fact that the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff did not just shut it down. And that was a worrying thing that was going around on Cowboys Twitter as well, that this was happening. Making CeeDee Lamb run around and go through all of this when the game is clearly lost is a pattern from Mike McCarthy. You just saw your quarterback get hurt. Quit trying to be a hero and be smart and get out of town. He's right. RJ Ochoa, shout out to him for saying what we're all thinking here. Get him out of the game. I know you're trying to get him his stats and you're trying to claw your way back into this football game, but why are you risking your $36 million per year wide receiver, throwing him back out there when he's clearly clutching and grabbing his shoulder on every single play? It just doesn't make sense to me. And letting Brian Anger and not Dak Prescott throw the ball on fourth down is insane behavior. Mike McCarthy is lost. So RJ Ochoa going on a bit of a tirade there on X, talking about the injury management by the Cowboys coaching staff, talking about the play calling, which was god-awful. They were stopped on fourth down 4 times. That's not good. That is no bueno. I'm not a math guy, again, and I'm not a doctor, but I could tell you that getting stopped 4 times on fourth down and turning it over to the Atlanta Falcons, not a very good game plan there by Mike McCarthy. So, again, the big stories here, Dak Prescott leaving the game. He was ruled out with a hamstring injury, but you could see that he had a problem with his hand earlier in that football game. And then the second domino to fall was CeeDee Lamb, who we don't know the severity of the injury yet. We probably won't know until a couple of days from now. But the fact that the Cowboys are now 3-5 on the season, they have a tough schedule coming up. I cannot see them rushing Lamb back to play. It just doesn't make sense. And I understand you're paying him a lot of money. You want him to be on the field. I get all of that if you're Jerry Jones, but it's just not smart business at this point. Would you rather lose him for the rest of this year, which seems to be lost already, or, would you rather lose him for years down the line and him just come back and not be the same? I would take the former, if I'm being quite honest with you guys, and I'm sure most of you watching these videos are going to say that as well, that you would rather him be out for the rest of the season, Cowboys get a better draft pick, maybe get him some help on the offensive side of the ball in the form of a running back or a wide receiver, do something to help out this anemic offense, because again, I didn't think the defense was bad today. I really didn't. They were giving up some chunk plays. That's going to happen when you have Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Drake London. They have some weapons, and Kirk Cousins is a pretty damn good quarterback. Despite what some naysayers might be saying, Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback in the National Football League. So they got a great offense, and it was sort of neutralized today by the Dallas Cowboys. They were able to stop the run. They were able to not really give up those big chunk plays, apart from a couple that I could remember off the top of my head. So the game plan on defense, not too bad, Mike Zimmer. You're working with what you have. DeMarvion Overshown had another great performance. He was tackling. He was being a ball hawk. He was showing off his speed from sideline to sideline. Like, it was great to watch DeMarvion Overshown really quarterback that defense. It was nice to have Eric Kendricks back as well. So I thought the defense did a good job on run stopping. In the secondary, not too great. The tackling was kind of garbage by Kalen Carson, and he should not be starting football games, but that's what happens when Deron Bland is still out, and that's what happens when you don't address the lack of depth that is clearly plaguing this football team. The Dallas Cowboys are in serious trouble, and I don't know if they're still trying to make the playoffs. They're clearly overmatched here. They're not going to make the playoffs. At least I've come to that conclusion myself. And right now the injuries are starting to pile up. Micah Parsons is out again. DeMarcus Lawrence has been out for a while. Trevon Diggs was a game-time decision with a calf. He was questionable, and now he's drawn back into the lineup. But I don't want to see any of these guys risk injury. I don't want to see them get hurt, and then that affects the Cowboys next season, because for me, I've already packed it in. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like I've mentioned previously on this channel, I will never actively cheer for the team to lose, but I can acknowledge when they are not good enough. And they were good enough last year to go on a long, extended run. They just fell flat on their faces in familiar Cowboys fashion. This year, they are absolutely not good enough. That's it. That is where the story ends. They are not good enough. They don't have weapons on offense. Their offensive line is absolute trash. Dak Prescott is getting pressured every single play. And it was nice to see him run a little bit today before he ultimately went out with the hamstring injury. And maybe that's why Jerry doesn't want him to run. But you could tell that the Cowboys were having a much easier time on offense when Dak was able to scramble and pick up some yards with his legs. That is a big part of the game. It's a huge part of the game, and Dak was able to do that today, so maybe that's something to build on going forward, or maybe it isn't, because he left the game. And I don't know if we're going to see him all season. Shout out to Cooper Rush, who came in and did an admirable job, but he's no Dak Prescott. And I know some fans are going to comment in the comment section down below, "Oh, start Cooper Rush, the offense was better with him." Stop this. Enough. All right, Cooper Rush is not better than Dak Prescott. Okay, you may be angry at Dak for not being worth the $60 million that Jerry paid him, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's not get carried away. He is not better than Dak Prescott. I'm just going to leave it there. Hopefully, CeeDee Lamb is all right and it's nothing too serious, and hopefully Dak Prescott is all right as well. But again, I'm not in favor of rushing them back to game action. I'm not a fan of that, especially in a year where you were 3-5 and you're just not good enough. So, don't rush him back. Don't try to be a hero. Mike McCarthy, looking straight at you. Don't try to be a hero. Be smart and get out of town. Get through the season in one piece if you can. And try to get a good draft pick. Try to have a good couple of draft days, and you're going to be right back into it. The NFC East is not a loaded division, but it is better than it was last year, because the Eagles look better with Saquon Barkley, and the Commanders have really found something with Jaden Daniels. So the Cowboys are in trouble, not just this year, but in the near future if they don't address some of the glaring holes that are plaguing this roster right now. And one of them is the offensive line, and another one is the lack of weapons in the wide receiver room, in the running back room. It's just not good enough. But shout out to Rico Dowdle, who did have a good performance today. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Kind of went in a few different directions here, but I'm fed up, man. I'm frustrated. This team knows no bounds. They make us miserable. And that is reflected in these videos. Shout out to you guys. Go Cowboys.